So I'm gonna put a little bit more of our seasonings to add in for our tomatoes. I always feel fancy. Because this is another one of those dollar ones, but they make me feel fancy. I'm going to turn down my heat. Almost down to nothing. I'm turning on really low. And I'm going to cover it up for just a minute to kind of let all of that kind of blend together. So when you let your dish sit for just a minute, it helps to let the seasonings blend. So we're going to let it sit for just a minute on warm. Any questions about our recipe? Anybody think it's going to taste good?
Smells
Yes.
good.
Yes.
How about if you use a wok?
Yeah, absolutely. You could use a wok to do it.
Instead of stir fry.
Yeah, you can make it like a stir fry, absolutely, if you wanted to. These recipes that I give to you, they're kind of a base recipe, and then you can get creative with it. If you want to follow just the base, perfectly fine. If you want to get a little bit creative with them, get creative. Add to it what you want, especially if you want to add in some more vegetables. With a stir fry, you're going to get a lot of different vegetables in there. That's a really good idea, really good and healthy, full of vegetables. But again, we want to make sure we're being careful about how we add in anything like a canned good or extra salt. We want to be real careful there. If you're buying canned goods or frozen goods that you're going to be putting in, you want to make sure that there's no salt added and no sugar added to those dishes. Sometimes when we buy canned goods, sometimes when we buy frozen goods, they do have, when they package them with sodium, and sometimes they package them with sugar. So just be careful that what we're buying is just what we're looking for. We don't want those extras. We'll let the forks go around. If you'll take one and then just pass that right on down. I have hand sanitizer if anybody wants hand sanitizer.
So would you say that canned and frozen is just as healthy as fresh? You know how
You're getting the
grandma
same nutritional value.
used to go out and go to the garden and pick things
If you
fresh?
have the opportunity to buy fresh, that's great. If you don't, the canned goods, your frozen goods, those are going to have the same nutritional value. Pretty approximate, not perfectly the same, but pretty close. And so it's better to get them in any form that you can than to not. So the class is really about nutritional value, getting the best nutritional value you can. So many times we don't have a garden to just go out and pick from. Sometimes fresh is a little more expensive than a canned good or a frozen good. And so whatever we can get in, as long as we're getting it, that's what's important.
Some had to eat with my hands.
Oh, I need some.
Oh, okay, so,
You need answer.
no, thanks.
Okay, so the last thing that you can add to this dish, and you'll see it on the recipe, is you can add a little bit of cheese. So if you have Parmesan cheese, you could put grated Parmesan, you can put fresh Parmesan, you could do the little, that comes in the little bottle that you get at the store, Parmesan. However you want to get that, I know at Aldi's they have some really good fresh Parmesan for fairly inexpensive. So I don't know about other stores, but I know that's one of the stores I shop at, they do have it there. So if you wanted to get something a little bit change up than what we're used to, the shaky Parmesan cheese, if you wanted to get a little something different, make you feel a little bit fancier with this dish, you certainly could do that as well. I am not going to add cheese to our dish. Cheese is sometimes an allergen for some people, and it is high in our salts and our fats. So if you want to add that in at home, you're welcome to do so. I'm not going to add it in here, though. I don't know anybody's specific diet, so I just try to be careful with those things that could have allergens in them.
Is there a healthy cheese?
A healthy cheese? So you get dairy, right? Dairy is really an important part of our diet. So as long as you're being careful with the fat content and the sodium content in the cheeses that you buy, then that's okay. So we can go with like a low-fat cheese, or cheese that's made with skim milk, or cheese that's made with 2% milk, and that's going to be your better option because it's going to reduce the fat content.
I like the Baby Bells.
Baby bells, yeah.
They got baby bell white chairs, low fat. You can get it at Target. I mean, that's the cheapest place to get it.
So when you cook healthy, you can really eat any amount you want. You don't have to say measure your food or weigh your food, you know.
If you're picking the healthiest options, then there are the 5 food groups, and we talked about the 5 food groups last week, and we talked about how much of each of the 5 food groups you need. As long as you're staying within your total amounts for the whole day of how much you need, and you're eating from the 5 food groups, you're good. You can eat the things that you enjoy.
I'm gonna let my gas stick first. I'm a guest. You're not a guest.
Thank you.
Mr. Parker,
Oh, thank you.
you're welcome.
Is that everybody?
That's enough.
Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, I'm gonna give everybody a chance to taste.
This good, is, I like the vegetables, my nutritionist will love the color.
Yes, lots
So
of
she
colors in
said
there, right?
That I eat too bland, I need to add more color.
Yeah, and we talked about that last week, right, with the 5 food groups, we talked about our fruits and vegetables, make sure we're pulling lots of colors. The rainbow on our plate is a lot of the things that we talked about last time. We wanna make sure we're getting those rainbows of colors on our plates, the reds, the greens, the yellows, the orange, we wanna make sure we're getting those colors in through our fruits and through our vegetables. Those different colors are helping to, first of all, with our fruit, represent different vitamins and nutrients. You always eat an apple, you never get what an orange can give you, right? So we want to make sure we're getting those different vitamins in so we get all of our vitamins. When we talk about our vegetables, those darker colors tend to have more nutritional value in them. So we want to make sure we're getting those darker colors in, those dark greens and the dark reds and the purples, right? We want to get lots of color in. So rainbow on our plate for the most nutritional value. Everybody seems to like it? Yes?
Yeah.
All right, anything we would do differently? Anybody think there's something they might do differently? Yeah,
Crushed red pepper.
crushed red pepper, that's what you said last time too, right? You like it a little spicy, right? So you might like the fire roasted tomatoes in there, that would kind of spice it up a little bit for you. Anybody else think they might change it up a little bit, do something different?
Thank you.
I don't know, it's pretty good, but it said, like you
I
said,
probably would add
some
some
like
tiny
peppers.
pieces of corn, I'm sorry,
Yeah, little pepper, spice it up a little bit, sure.
and put those little tiny pieces of corn in there.
So you're always looking to get some extra starch in, right? So, that would be okay, right, if you had been careful with your starches throughout the day. But this is already a starch-based meal, right, because it's got our noodles. So that, yeah, you want to be careful not with those. I'm not saying you
I
can't,
wouldn't.
but just want to be careful with that one.
What about with a meat?
If you wanted to add a meat to this, yes, absolutely, you could. You could go ahead and add a meat if you wanted to. This one might be good with shrimp or a sausage would be good with this one, I think. But if you want to do something else, if you want to do hamburger meat, if you want to do some other kind of product. Yep, you do chicken with it, sure.
And then it have a, you can use the seasoning, but there's not a lot of salt.
Yes,
That,
There's no salt.
yes.
No, a lot.
There's
Not a
like
salt.
no salt. There's very, very little salt in this dish
And I
because we
miss
use
that salt.
yeah. And a lot of times when we use salt on a regular basis, and then we taste a dish that doesn't have a lot of salt in it, we immediately go, this is kind of bland. And
right,
it's not that it's necessarily bland, it's that we're not tasting salt. And our taste buds
seasoned
actually become accustomed to salt. And when they get accustomed to the taste of salt, we seek it out in all of our dishes. And so we have to learn how to re-taste our food without the salt in it in order to be able to taste the actual food itself and get that taste of those seasonings.
You're right.
And it does take a while, so I know that that's a little bit different. If you're used to having salt in your dish, it's a little bit different to not have it, but.
Yeah, I'm not a big salt person, but I can definitely tell.
Tell
And
it.
evidently, I must be eating more than
Yeah.
I'm supposed to or used to, but yeah, I can tell there's no salt in it. But it's okay. So I
Yeah.
say this
And
is-
remember, if you wanted to sprinkle that Parmesan cheese on top, you could, and that's gonna give you that salt, right? There's gonna be that saltness is gonna come from that cheese. So if you wanted to add in a little bit of cheese, you could sprinkle a little on top, get a little bit of your dairy, that calcium, the vitamin D from your dairy product, and then also get a little bit of that salt that you might feel like you're missing with this
I
one.
think the tomato is giving me, cause I taste some sodium, and I think it's mainly from the tomato.
You can taste it in the tomatoes.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's giving that, I guess not salt, but salt-like taste. to me.
Okay, sure, sure. So, again, if you want to change it up a little bit, if you wanted to add a little bit more spice of a peppery type of spice, you could do that. If you wanted to add in a different type of onion, you could do that. The different onions are gonna play a different way in there, so some onions tend to get a little bit sweeter, some of them are a little bit spicier, so you can kind of play with that to see how you would like that dish to show up. However you want to take this home and make it, that's up to you, right? This is just the base, and then if you want to add to it, you can. But just be careful when you add to it that we're not adding those high sodium products, right? So cheese is fine, but we don't need it to dump cheese on top, right? A little sprinkle of cheese on top. If you want to do maybe some mushrooms in this, you could do that. That'd be another one that you could add in here. If you didn't want to do meat, you maybe could do the mushrooms. It would give you the meat texture when you're taking bites. That'll kind of give you that texture of that. Or if you wanted to add the meat, you could, but we want to look for the lean meat products whenever we can. So low fat content again. We're trying to get good nutritional value, but we don't want to add in anything we don't need. So next week's class, we're going to be talking about nutrition from the labels. So we'll actually be looking over labels, how to read the label. We'll start at the top, we'll work all the way down to the bottom. We'll talk about nutritional values out of the food that we eat and how we can use that label to pick our best nutritional value. So I encourage you to come back for that one. We'll talk about salt, and we'll talk about how much salt we actually need every day, which we'll preview. It's 1 teaspoon. That's it.
Like
1
that?
teaspoon is all the salt that we get for the whole day. So, that's it. So if you're using more than a teaspoon a day, you're over your salt intake for the day, right? Which is why we have to be so careful about how we put salt into our dishes. And remember, just because you add some salt while you're cooking doesn't mean you're eating a whole teaspoon of it, right? If you're sharing that dish among other people, you're not eating that whole teaspoon. So, right? So if you make a dish and it calls for a teaspoon of salt and you add that in and you eat the whole dish by yourself, then of course you're getting the whole teaspoon. But most of us share our dishes with our family and our friends, so you're not going to eat that all by yourself. But if you're doing that all day long with all of your meals, then you have to think about how much overall salt did I get.
How much salt is on a pretzel? Us. Choked. It was salty.
Yeah, I bet. So you probably are getting your full amount of salt on one pretzel. It's probably your full amount on one pretzel.
I did one pretzel. Yeah.
And of course, it depends on the pretzel and size and those
That big
things, yeah.
pretzel?
But one of those big pretzels, one of those big salted pretzels, yeah, absolutely, that I'm almost positive. I'm not 100% positive, right? Each person makes theirs different at different locations, but you're probably getting all of the salt you need for the whole day just on one. All right, so today I want to talk about, we talked about our 5 food groups last time, and today I want us to apply that to a meal. And so I have some information for you. So if you have this sheet, if you'll pull that out, that was from last week, and if you weren't with us last week and you need this sheet, let me know. I brought extras.
We do.
Here you go. I almost lost it. I guess so.
Oh, thank you, thought I had it.
Do you have it with you or
I
not?
think so. Just show it to me again.
It's the one where the goal sheet was. You were showing me your goal sheet.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Yep, that's the right one.
Okay.
So on the front page, this is what we talked about last time. And I know, ladies, you weren't here with us, but we talked about the 5 food groups and how much to eat from each of those 5 food groups. And these are the foods we're supposed to choose every day, right? Today, we're gonna look at the back. We're gonna look at the back of it. So you have on the back a 24-hour diet recall. This is the food that a friend of ours, we can name them whatever we want. This is a friend of ours. This is all the food that they ate up here at the top, their breakfast, their lunch, their snack, and their dinner. This is all the foods that they ate for the day. We're gonna go through the food